Good afternoon, everyone. I think we will get started right now, given that it just became 4 o'clock and we want to make sure that we respect everyone's time. We have a lot of content to go over today, and so I just want to make sure that we maximize the time that we have with one another, and we can just begin. And I assume folks will just continue to come in over the next few minutes or so. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the License Pre-Approval Informational Session. My name is Merone Melekin, and I'm delighted to be here with you all. Over the last several weeks, the Office of Cannabis Management has worked diligently to develop resources and guidance to help support the user experience of the license pre-approval process. You will see on our website today updated guidance, materials, videos, and more. If you haven't already, please review the resources that were updated on July 23rd to support your license pre-approval application. They contain the most up-to-date guidance to help you with your application. We have a lot of content to go over this afternoon and may go over our 4 to 5 p.m. webinar time slot. Feel free to stay online with us beyond 5 p.m. Otherwise, the webinar will be posted on the web for your review at a later date. And I just want to ask all those that may have speakers that may have their mics unmuted right now, if we could just mute, and then I will send it over to you whenever you are up to speak. So with us today are my colleagues from the Office of Cannabis Management, who will provide an overview of the different sections of the application experience. Max Zappia, Chief Regulatory Officer, and Kim Maturo-Hilt, overseeing information technology, and I will be your presenters for today. As mentioned, we have a lot of content to go over during this session, and we really just want to make sure that all those that are taking advantage of this application period receive this message. And so if you're able to stay on board with us beyond 5 p.m., assuming that we might go over a little bit, feel free to do so. Otherwise, this content is all either already on the website through our resources, or this webinar will be posted on the website at a later date. So today we will walk through the licensing process, provide an overview of the application requirements and timelines, provide application tips and resources, walk through a few frequently asked questions, and conclude with key takeaways and next steps. I want to preface this presentation with the note that we are focused on the overall applicant experience for navigating the licensing process and are really unable to touch on items that fall into business or legal advice. The contents of this presentation can be found on our website, mn.gov/OCM. So a little bit about the Office of Cannabis Management. So the OCM is charged with developing and implementing the operational and regulatory systems to oversee the adult use cannabis industry, the medical cannabis program, and the consumer hemp-derived cannabinoid industry. We are really very much so dedicated to launching an effective, safe, equitable, and sustained cannabis industry here in Minnesota. As mentioned, the OCM, on the previous slide, the OCM is responsible for implementing and enforcing the rules and regulations governing Minnesota's cannabis market. One of our key responsibilities includes overseeing the cannabis business license application process and awarding licenses. The process started with the verification of applicants who meet qualifications for social equity applicant status. This was the first step in the cannabis license pre-approval process. Following that, those verified through this process will submit an application for cannabis license pre-approval, go through a review and vetting process, and if qualified, be entered into a lottery. Applicants selected through the lottery will be awarded license pre-approval and be able to finalize business operations in anticipation of market launch after the adoption of rules. And as a reminder, listed on the screen is the criteria and law for the social equity classification. In Minnesota law, a social equity applicant is defined as an applicant for a cannabis license that has at least 65% ownership and control held by one or more individuals who meet at least one of the criteria listed on the screen. This is the criteria that was written into law. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to my colleague, Kim, who will provide you with a walkthrough to complete your license pre-approval application.
Great, thanks, Merone. All right, everybody, I'm actually going to walk you through the system now for creating your application. So I have navigated over to the Citizen portal, and the first thing that we're going to come to is our login. I just want to remind everybody that when you are starting your application, please remember to use the credentials that you created when you started your social equity verification. So this is your registered Citizen portal account. And go ahead and type in your user ID and your password. And then go ahead and click sign in. It helps if you can remember your password. Once you come to the main screen, you're going to select the option at the very top that says Create Application. You'll get to our general disclaimer. Go ahead and check the acknowledgement and continue. Once you've come to this screen, you're now going to be able to select the specific license application that you want to apply for. So under the drop-down menu, you'll see license application. You'll click on the drop-down arrow, and then you're going to select the specific license that you would like to apply for. I've already started one, so I am actually going to go over and grab one, and we're going to jump into the actual application. The very first thing that you're going to come to when you start your application is you are going to be asked to confirm your social equity status. So here you'll be asked to that whether or not you've received your form, yes or no. You'll answer yes, and then you're going to click on the Continue Application button. On the next screen, you are going to be asked to identify 3 key contacts for your application. You'll have your applicant, your authorized agent, and your business owner. One of the things that I'd like to highlight is throughout the system, we will have information around in red text that will help you understand what we might be looking for that particular section. So I just caution everybody to please pay attention and read anything that you would either ever see in bold or red text. When you're adding your contacts, you can either select from your account, which is going to be the registered user that you created, the same one that you used for your social equity verification, or you can add new. Either option will work. You'll see in the table below that you have your applicant, your authorized agent, and your business owner. At the same time, you'll also note that I have green check marks. That means that I have successfully added those records to my application. Next, we'll continue on, and we're going to have certain questions that will come up throughout your application. These questions will vary depending on what you are applying for. You're going to read the question and you'll answer yes or no. Now, in some instances, there'll be dependencies. So in this particular case, this question about bankruptcy, if I say yes, I'm going to receive another question that becomes a required field. I'd like to note all required fields are marked with a red asterisk. You won't be able to proceed from this screen until everything that is required has been completed. Now, in some cases, you may see a circle with a blue question mark. This is a help feature. All you need to do is take your mouse and hover over that, point and click, and a help feature will come up. So if you need to see additional information or we want to share additional information with you, you simply can click on that help feature. If you'd like the help feature to go away, simply click on the X in the upper right-hand corner. Once I've completed all the required information on this screen, I can go ahead and click Continue Application. The next one is around establishment information. I'd like to highlight here that because in many situations you may not have detailed information about your registered business, yet that these fields are optional. We would recommend that any information that you do have about your business that supports your application to please provide that information. I'd also like to highlight that we do have features such as this legal business registration type that you'll see that there's a drop-down arrow. You simply can select drop-down arrows and then choose from one of the options in the list. Then we also have on the screen for product type and business activities. Product types and business activities are license specific. So depending on the license that you are applying for, these lists may change. This is information that will help us to identify what type of product you might be handling for your business or you're thinking about handling, and the different business activities that you might be seeking to do. Once you've completed this information on the screen, you can click the Continue Application. We're now going to move into the supporting documents. Again, please remember to read all of the text that's in red because this will give you additional instructions. It will also give you a link to where you can find all of the required worksheets that you will need for submitting your application. Again, depending on the license type that you're applying for, the documents that you need to upload here may vary. So again, I may have 14 documents for the license I'm applying for, but other licenses may have 15 required documents and some may have 13 required documents. On the left-hand side, you can see the name of the worksheet or name of the document that you need to upload. In order to upload a document on this particular screen, you simply click on the Add button. You'll be taken to your File Explorer. You'll select your appropriate document that you want to upload, and then go ahead and either open or next or save, depending on what browser you're using. You'll receive a notification like I did in green that says that it was successfully uploaded. You can also see now that the document is there. If by chance you have uploaded an incorrect document to one of these fields, you simply just click on the Add button again and then select the right document. I'd also like to point out at this here that throughout this entire application process, you have the option to save and resume. So by using the Save and Resume button, it will save your application and everything that you've provided in it thus far. You can come back to your portal at any point in time to complete your application. So take your time, review the information, make sure that all of your documentation is in order and ready to upload. If everything is ready, then you can go ahead and click Continue Application. The next section becomes the acknowledgements and attestations. So for each one of these required attestations or acknowledgements, you will need to read it and click on the check mark to proceed. This is saying that you have read it and that you understand. When you miss an acknowledgement on this page, you'll notice that the color of the acknowledgement changes to red. And there's also an icon with an exclamation point to let you know that you've missed it. To resolve that issue, simply click on the checkbox. These will also vary based on the license that you are applying for. Once you've completed all the acknowledgements, continue application. Every time that you're in the system and you are about ready to submit your record, no matter what record that is, you'll have the option to review and edit. If you have an edit that you would like to make or need to make, you simply just click on the Edit button. The system will take you back to that section. You make your necessary edits, and then you simply hit Continue, and you'll be taken right back to the review screen. Once you've completed your review of all of your information, the very last thing is your final signature here before you'll be taken to payment. Go ahead and select your acknowledgement and continue. At this point, you'll be taken to the payment screen. You simply can click on payment, review the application fee, select checkout, review the information that is on this screen, hit checkout one more time. And at this point, you are going to be redirected to our payment system. I'd like to point out that you're now, at this point, you'll notice the screen changes, and that is because we are being taken to a third-party payment processing. I would go ahead and input my payment information here. And give me just a second here. And once I put in my payment information, I would click on the pay button. This information does need to be accurate, so please pay close attention to the information here because it will verify information such as your zip code, your name, your card number, your CVV. Hit the pay button, and then your payment will process. At this point, it's processing, and then we'll have the opportunity to return to our application. I have a little bit of a slow connection today, so I apologize. Here you can print your receipt, or you can go ahead and continue to your portal. At this very moment in time, if you have any other information that you would like to submit to the Office of Cannabis Management to support your application, you can do so from this screen. You simply click on your record number, go to your record information and the attachments, and click on the Add button. From here, you can click Add again. You can select any additional documentation that you would like to supply to us. Go ahead and select Continue. And then you'll notice now that there's a type field. If you click on that drop-down arrow, you'll see additional documents that you may submit to us. So whether that is additional business plan information, whether that's security notes or articles of incorporation. At this very moment, you hit Save. Again, don't forget to hit those required fields. Hit Save. And now your additional documentation has been uploaded and the office has received a notification on the back end that you have submitted additional documentation as well as your entire application being provided to us. So I want to say thank you for your time, and I am going to hand it back over to Merone.
Merone, if you've said anything, then you were on mute.
My apologies. Thank you, guys. This is technology. Thank you, Kim. And I'm going to actually turn it over to my colleague, Max, who is going to walk through the next section of this application. Just one moment as we're navigating some technology. There you go.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am excited to be presenting here on day one of our application system. I'm going to be going quickly through the forms, requirements, and timelines that we have for this process. So first of all, our social equity verification window opened on June 24th and closed on July 10th. There is a lag there for people that got into the window and are still working through verification of documents. However, many people have already been approved and are ready for the process today. As I mentioned, we are live. I think we were live as of 6 o'clock, and we will be accepting applications through August 12th. This is a Minnesota license run in the state of Minnesota, so that is the end of August 12th, Central Daylight Time, and that could become an important distinction. For this round, this is the pre-approval round. Here are the licenses that will be available. There are 100 micro businesses, 23 meso business, 13 cultivators, 6 manufacturers, 38 cannabis retailers, 20 wholesalers, 20 transporters, 50 testing facilities, and 10 cannabis delivery services. You'll note that several of these are marked with an asterisk. These are the license types that are only capped during the license pre-approval round. Totally understand that there is an excitement to get licensed as quickly as possible, but it is worth noting that there are rounds in the future for applying and that those that are marked here are not going to be the capped licenses, so will not be subject to a lottery or limited availability. Right. The Office of Cannabis Management will deny your application for the following reasons. And this is a document that either is available in law, is available in materials, and will be included in this webinar. So I won't read word for word, but we'll go through them quickly here. So if the applicant does not include ownership by 65% or more of social equity applicants, it is not eligible for this round. If the application isn't complete or is deemed unqualified by the standards of our review, which are posted in our review matrix. The application contains materially false statements about the applicant or omits information required. And that's going to be important, especially if there's ownership agreements or certain documents that we are asking for that you do not provide. The applicant cannot be, does not meet qualifications under 342.16 and or is prohibited from holding a license under 342.18 subdivision 2. The applicant doesn't pay the fees, the license will not go through without your fees paid, and I will note that those fees are not refundable. That is by law. The application failed to submit their application by the deadline. More than one application is submitted for a license type. The office determines that the applicant would be prohibited from holding a license for any other reason, does not meet the statutory requirements under 342.18, and the application or that the application violates the true party of interest requirements, which we are going to talk about next. All right, so true party of interest. The specific definitions of who fits into a true party of interest are listed in law. However, conversationally, a true party of interest is someone that owns or has a control of any part of a business within a cannabis license. All those that qualify are considered true party of interest. However, there are some leeways for true party of interest that have less than 10% or 10% or less of a business, and in that case, they can own multiple licenses. But if that is not the case, a true party of interest cannot own more than one license, be on more than one application, unless those two licenses are able to be held by the same applicant. And a quick list of where that applies is up here. So a cultivator and a manufacturer can be held by the same applicant, a wholesaler and a transporter, same thing. A single cannabis wholesaler license and a single cannabis delivery service license held together. A single cannabis transporter and delivery license also held together. And then there's a few more. All applications, and this is also an important detail, that would result in any true party of interest obtaining a license for multiple license types outside of the list above, means that all the applications associated with that true party of interest will be denied. As far as our review, we will, applications for license pre-approval will be reviewed for completeness and on a qualified/unqualified basis. And that is to say, applications will not be reviewed on a comparative basis. Your application will not be scored compared to other applicants. All applicants must meet the minimum qualifications of the review table as outlined in Appendix A of the guidance document. Those will be included in the lottery to select the recipients for pre-approval. Just as a note here, being selected in the lottery does not guarantee license pre-approval or a license generally. You will have the opportunity to attain one, but you must meet all the necessary requirements for operations. It's very important that you review the license pre-approval instructions and matrix criteria for the requirements that are going to be included in your application.
Awesome. Thank you, Max. And so I'm going to transition a bit into really just talking about a few application tips and resources to support you through your application process. I know both Kim and Max have mentioned both various forms of guidance, whether it was a matrix, whether it's the current videos that we have on our website right now. And so really this is an overview to share tips and resources that we currently have, and we hope that all of you will be able to leave this presentation and be able to go onto our website, go through some of our resources that can really guide you and assist you in your application process. So just to get us started, to promote applicant success while ensuring qualifications for pre-approval are met, the office provided the minimum qualification review tables listed in Appendix A of what we call the License Pre-Approval Application Instructions and Criteria Matrix. This matrix is currently on our resource page of our website, and it really serves as I'd say, an application content and guide for applicants. These tables will serve as the primary tool for application review as well. Applicants are strongly encouraged to use the tables in Appendix A of the guide, simply because it really allows you to identify what are the things that you need to do in order to meet the minimum qualifications and ensure that you are completing all of, you're providing the most complete application. And I just, again, want to reiterate the importance of using the matrix to help complete the application. If you are receiving, one thing I want to know is if you're receiving help from somebody else that is helping you complete your application, again, it's extremely important that you as the applicant are reviewing the content that's being submitted. And so making sure that you're double and triple checking, even if you are working with somebody else that's helping you complete some of the different steps within your application, because you want to make sure that you are meeting those minimum qualifications and those guidelines that are spelled out. And so I'm going to walk into just a few things to consider as you're completing your application. First, all applicants must use the provided worksheets for all required attachments where it's listed that as an OCM worksheet. Worksheets can be found on the OCM license pre-approval resource page right now. I want to note that the worksheets have been updated, and the most recent versions were updated yesterday. So they were posted on the website yesterday, July 23rd, 2024. I highly encourage folks that as you're beginning to work on your applications, utilize the most recent worksheets because they have the most up-to-date information and they'll really be able to help guide you through the process. The worksheets are fillable PDFs with the exception of the capitalization table, which is a Excel file. One thing to note within these different documents as well is that you will need to use the most up-to-date capitalization table for your application. Our most recent updated capitalization table has multiple tabs. So if you need to submit multiple capitalization tables for your application, the tabs are already included within that Excel file. And so if you are looking, if you have already started filling out some of these forms in previous days with previous worksheets that were on the web, I highly encourage that you transition and utilize the ones that we currently have on our website, as they'll just be the most streamlined process to be able to submit within our website, and given that they're required as well. I also just want to note that it's the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that the fillable PDF has been saved with all of your populated responses. So just, again, it's extremely important that you are double and triple checking that as you are typing in your written responses into the PDF form, that it has all of the content that you want to be in there. So it's always worth double and triple checking before you hit submit on your application. And also, just to note that handwritten responses in the fillable sections will not be accepted. Additional things to consider as you're completing your application is that the application criteria will be evaluated on a qualified versus unqualified basis. The determination will be based upon meeting the qualifications listed in the applicants can use that application as a checklist to ensure that you're meeting all the qualifications as well. So really, you utilize the guides and the resources that we have on the website as tools as you're working through all of the different sections of your application. So in addition, when completing the application, another thing to consider is specifically about physical premises. A physical premise is not required for license pre-approval and provides the applicant no advantage in the review process, as we recognize municipal ordinances regarding land use, zoning, and certifications for cannabis businesses are still being developed. Similarly, applicants who have secure businesses will not be held to a higher review standard than those without. All applicants will be subject to the standards that are listed in that Appendix A of the matrix. While a physical premise is not required for license pre-approval and provides the applicant with no advantage in the review process, it's still necessary to read each question carefully within your application and especially within the worksheets, as it's asking you to attest that you will provide the necessary information. So it's important that you're carefully reading those questions, as they will ask for what you are planning to do. It'll ask you questions about what to include in your plan once a location is secured. And so one thing that we just want to reiterate to folks is that make sure that you're completing all of your worksheets in complete form, that you are not leaving anything blank. If you do not have a location, for example, you should completely write that you don't have a location at this time. However, there will be subsequent questions that you will still be required to fill out within your worksheets, such as future plans and such. In addition, other things to keep in mind is that the office recognizes that plans and information submitted will require modifications upon final OCM regulations being adopted, as well as physical premises being obtained. The applicant should prepare materials that take into consideration the cannabis industry, best practices that promote public health and safety in their responses. And lastly, applicants may put in the columns and tables listed in Appendix A will determine if minimum qualifications have been met. And so this is really just reiterating to folks that it's important to make sure that all of your worksheets are filled out in completion, that you are including all of the relevant information that is requested, and really answering all of the questions to your best ability. When completing the application as well, other things to consider is that any aspect of the submitted information or materials that indicate that the applicant will violate any provisions of Minnesota statutes, Chapter 342, or other state or federal law will result in a denial of the application. So all relevant statutes and laws should be carefully read and considered prior to the development and submission of an application. Currently on our website, we have a link to Chapter 342 that folks can be able to utilize to be able to review in advance of them submitting their application. Another thing to consider as you're going into your application is for documents requiring signatures and e-signatures are considered acceptable in addition to ink signatures. And so just important things to know as you are going through your process. One thing that my colleague Kim was able to walk through as she went through the application portal, but I want to raise here again, is that the Acela Citizen portal does not allow you to upload multiple documents per attachment type. You will only be able to attach the primary required worksheets in the manner prescribed in these instructions before submitting payment. So whenever you are initially doing your uploads, you're only able to upload the required worksheets that are associated with it. However, after you complete your submission of your application and complete your payment and your submission, you must re-enter Acela or simply proceed to the additional record info and upload additional required documents related to the disclosure of ownership and control if you have selected provided to the attestation in the OCM worksheet. So this is something that we just want to make sure that folks know, is that upon completion of your application, upon doing your payment and clicking submit, if you had selected that attestation, you must re-enter the system essentially and add that additional required documentation related to the disclosure of ownership and control. We have instructions on how to do that. Kim was able to walk us through it earlier through her review of the application portal. However, we have a specific video that shows folks how to completely complete their application, and then as soon as you click submit, how to go back in and make sure that you include that information, as that is a requirement in the application process. You may also add any additional supplementary documents, such as additional information on your business outside of the required worksheets after submitting payment. Supplemental documents are not required and not reviewed outside of the scope of the minimum qualifications as listed in Appendix A. And so again, you can include supplementary documents to support your application. However, they aren't necessarily reviewed in the same way. But the one thing that I do want to mention is that the disclosure of ownership control, the documents that are associated with that, after you click submit on your application, you will have to go back in and make sure that you upload those documents. And so here is just a list of some of the, or many of the documents or the worksheets that are available on our website today. So prior to submitting your application, you will need to have all of the relevant completed worksheets ready for the attachments in the file format using the OCM provided worksheets. So all of these are on our website right now that you are able to use and begin filling out. I encourage folks to save them onto your desktop, continue to work on them, make sure that they're saved in a naming format that is completely clear, and then make sure that you upload them in the correct spots whenever you are working on your application submission. So in addition, prior to submitting your application, you will need to have the following completed documents ready for attachment in PDF form. So in addition to the ones that we just took a look at on the previous screen, you'll also need to have additional documents for the disclosure of ownership and control as applicable. So if you had identified that, or if you're required to. And so if the applicant is a corporation, copies of the applicant's articles of incorporation and bylaws and amendments to the applicant's articles of incorporation or bylaws, copies of any partnership agreement, operating agreement, or shareholder agreement, copies of promissory notes, security instruments, or other similar agreements. And so all of these are additional things that you would have to provide. Another document that you want to make sure that you have in advance of completing your application is your social equity certification report with clear status provided from CSI Inc. Social equity applicants must have at least 65% of the controlling ownership of the business entity. The document uploaded must reflect the applicant's social equity certification report with that clear status. For applicants with multiple verified social equity owners comprising no less than 65% ownership, applicants will need to provide the social equity certification report with clear status unique number from CSI for all individuals associated into their capitalization table. So there will be a place that they will be able to put that specific unique number into their capitalization table, where they're essentially sharing the ownership looks like. Please see the instructions on the capitalization table for where to place these unique numbers as well. In addition, additional information that you'll need is your proof of trade name registration provided by the Minnesota Secretary of State and a valid photo ID by a government or tribal agency. So this is helpful in just thinking about all of the items that you want to make sure that you have in advance of clicking submit. So as we talked about it earlier, making sure that you have all of your documents and your attachments clearly labeled and uploaded correctly and in the correct order. You also want to make sure that all of your documents are completely filled out. And so making sure that you're not missing any pieces along the way. As we've mentioned before, during the social equity verification process, users were able to go back and forth with CSI Inc. after submitting information in order to complete their verification process. Whereas in the license pre-approval process, it's a bit different. Once you submit your application, it's considered final. OCM may reach out to you for additional information as needed in order to make a determination on your application. However, what we are really asking folks is making sure that you are double and triple checking before you officially submit your application, because you won't have the ability to go back into the system and change information after that. So check, double check, have another person take a look at your attachments and all of your materials before you click submit. Recognize and remember that you can always save and return to your application at any point in time. And so take the time that you need to fully review and make sure that it is your best work and it is what you want to be submitted. Whenever you're officially ready, then go ahead and click submit. But once you click submit, you won't be able to update unless specifically requested by the office during the review period. So I know I provided just a ton of information, but now I want to talk a bit about the various resources that we have. As mentioned, I'm sure a number of you probably received our communication that went out earlier that talked about the opening of license pre-approval and about all of the various resources that we have on our webpage today. As of July 23rd, 2024, a number of our resources have been updated. And so I really ask you all to make sure that you're taking a look and you're using the most up-to-date documents that we have on our website. We have everything from our license pre-approval application instructions and criteria matrix that I've touched on a lot. We have PDF worksheets for the different parts of the application. We have 5 step-by-step instructional videos, similar to the walkthrough that Kim did with us earlier. We have a page that just has frequently asked questions. And so we really are taking the questions that folks ask us every single day, whether it's through our inbox or through other communication means, to inform what we need to add onto the website, what still seems unclear, and how we can better support folks. And of course, are just still using our general website to ask questions, to gain clarity on different pieces of the license pre-approval process. And so really that is the main place that I just ask folks to continue to go as you are thinking about different aspects of your application. One thing that I do want to note again, and I think it's really important, is that applicants are required to use the worksheets where it's listed within the website. And so as you can see on the right hand side of the screen right now, this is a list of several of the worksheets and how you can just download them right away and jump right into it. We ask that folks use this most up-to-date version. We also have a copy or a link to the updated capitalization table. And so we ask that folks utilize this and because it'll be necessary whenever you are sharing all of your respective information with us within this. Continuing on to some of our resources, this is just an example or the front page of the Cannabis business license pre-approval application instructions and criteria mix. And so you can just see that it's several pages of guidance that I think will just be a great resource to have as you're walking through your application. It includes instructions, it includes the minimum qualification tables, and really a lot of the guidance that we went through today. We have as mentioned, 5 videos that are currently on our website right now that'll be extremely valuable to you. You can either access these directly through the mn.gov/OCM website, or you can go onto our YouTube and be able to literally walk through your application process and have this video on as you're going to make sure that you're really nailing all of the steps to complete your application submission. And as we mentioned a bit earlier today as well, we've referred to Chapter 342 a lot. We've referred to the law that essentially got us to where we are today. And so we have references on our website to Chapter 342, as well as other session law that you will be able to go to and review as you're completing your application as well. If there's anything that you feel like you need to double check on, please use these resources that we've provided on the website. And of course, feel free if any of it is also unclear to continue to reach out to our office, and we can further clarify some of what was written into statute as well. So I know that was a lot of information and I feel like I've been moving really fast, but I did want to touch on several frequently asked questions. We have received several questions over the last several weeks, and both after our SCA verification process, but leading into license pre-approval. And so we wanted to make sure that we're providing folks with the most clarity to some of the questions that still exist. And so I'm going to touch on those. I want to say that this is not an exhaustive list. And so we encourage folks to continue to reach out to us, go to our website and send an email to us if there are things that still seem unclear or things, hiccups that you might be having within your application process, so that we can make sure that we're addressing it and that we're sharing it out with other folks as well, to make sure that others aren't experiencing any challenges. I'll say to date, we've received good feedback, and it seems like people are having a good experience with the licensing process. And so that is good to hear. But of course, not an exhaustive list. As things come up, please do continue to communicate with us. So we'll just walk through a few of these. So one question is, if I am a social equity applicant, will this be my only opportunity to apply? And the answer to that is no. Social equity applicants will also be able to apply for licensure when the office launches the general licensing process. The launch of the general licensing process will really depend on our rulemaking process, though. Our next question is, what is required in an application for license pre-approval for a cannabis business license? I will say that we went over quite a lot of it during this presentation today, but OCM has published guidance that details the specific application requirements. And so again, that matrix that I referred to earlier has the various details as it relates to the license pre-approval application and all of the different criteria that you need to meet. Max went over this a bit earlier, but how many license pre-approvals will be awarded? And OCM may issue up to the following number of license pre-approvals for for the following licenses. And so I won't read through all of them, but just wanted to share that as well. These are also listed in our guidance materials as well. And so if at any point in time you're wondering, you can always go back and check some of those out on our website. Okay. Is there an application fee for the pre-approval process? Yes. Application fees for the cannabis business licenses are based on license type and detailed in Minnesota Statutes Chapter 342.11. And it's listed on our general licensing webpage. The relevant application fees are required at the time an applicant submits their application for pre-approval. Then the relevant initial license fees are required at time an applicant with license pre-approval converts to a license. And so really just kind of specifying that there are different fees. There's the application fee, and then there's the initial license fee. If I am not selected in the application process, is my fee refundable? No, application fees are non-refundable. You may review Minnesota Statutes Chapter 342.11 for more details about application, license, and renewal fees. However, that is written within statute. Does license pre-approval mean I can start my business? So license pre-approval issued by OCM is not a cannabis business license. An applicant with license pre-approval is permitted to establish legal control of the site of the cannabis business, gain zoning or planning approval, and potentially raise capital for the business operations. Generally, applicants with license pre-approval cannot engage in the activities that will be authorized under a cannabis business license, for example, grow, manufacture, or sell cannabis and other products regulated under Minnesota Statutes Chapter 342. So once rulemaking is completed and rules are adopted, and if an applicant meets the requirements for conversion from pre-approval to a license, these activities, including initiating business operations, will be authorized. Social equity applicants with a pre-approval license for cannabis micro businesses, cannabis mezzo businesses, or cannabis cultivator, and with the appropriate local approval may be allowed to grow cannabis plants under existing rules for medical cannabis and prior to the adoption of rules. Oops, I think I may have jumped over that one quickly. Yeah, I went through a couple of them. Let me go back and make sure that I get to all of them. All right. What are the application limits for license pre-approval? Can I submit more than one application for license pre-approval? An individual, entity, or true party of interest may not submit more than one application for any single license type. This limitation does not apply to an individual, business, or entity that holds no more than 10% ownership of the business entity. Please review Minnesota Statutes 342-185 for further details on application number limitations. An individual or business entity may submit for multiple license types if it would not result in the applicant being vertically integrated, in violation of Minnesota Statutes Chapter 342. And so we included the links to each of these so folks can continue to dig into it. But as folks, if folks still have questions about limits and such, you can always continue to reach out to our office. Can I be a true party of interest on more than one application? And the answer here is an entity or true party of interest may not submit more than one application for any single license type. This limitation does not apply to an individual, business, or entity that holds no more than 10% ownership of the business entity. And again, you can review Minnesota Statutes 342 for further details that really touches on what is a true party of interest. We will head to the next one. Is a labor peace agreement required during the application process? Pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 342-14, applications for cannabis licenses require an applicant to submit to OCM an attestation signed by a bona fide labor organization stating that the applicant has entered into a labor peace agreement. At the time the application is submitted, applicants for license pre-approval will be required to provide documentation demonstrating their intent to obtain a signed labor peace agreement before license pre-approval is issued. This documentation should be provided via the worksheet titled Attestation of Labor Peace Agreement in the prepared documents or prepared resources for applicants available on our website. And so this can be found on our website right now as one of the documents or worksheets. After being selected in the lottery, license pre-approval will only be issued once an applicant has updated their application to include an attestation signed by a bona fide labor organization stating that the applicant has entered into a labor peace agreement. How do I fill out the application details if I do not have a location for the business? Applicants should, a physical premise is not required for license pre-approval and provides the applicant no advantage in the review process. However, it is necessary to read each question carefully about whether the question is asking you to attest that you will do something and/or if it is asking you to write and include what you plan to do once a location is secured. Unless the question itself includes, if applicable, it is required to provide the requested information, even if the information is preliminary or for planning purposes. Applicants should carefully consider whether a question is applicable to their application before deciding not to respond. Writing not applicable or NA is not sufficient unless specifically noted. And so this is again just kind of referencing what I had mentioned around making sure that your application is complete and that you're really filling out all of the necessary pieces of the various worksheets. And in places, for example, if you don't have a location, specifying that you don't have a location, however, still completing the other sections of the worksheet to ensure that you are still sharing what your potential plans are. What if I already started completing application with the worksheets provided before the ones that were just released today? All applicants must use the provided worksheets for all required attachments where listed as an OCM worksheets. Worksheets for each OCM mandated attachment can be found on our OCM license pre-approval resource page. The new worksheets include the most updated guidance. And so we just really encourage folks to make sure that they're using the most up-to-date worksheets as it allows them to have the most up-to-date guidance within there, and it makes for the easiest transition as it enters into our licensing process. And so that concludes all of our frequently asked questions. Just key takeaways and looking at next steps. We encourage you all to continue to use our website and continue to utilize our resources. We have updated guidance and resources that were released yesterday and today to support the entire license pre-approval application experience. We are consistently updating our frequently asked questions list. And so in real time, as we continue to receive questions from folks, we make sure that we are including them to be able to share with others. And so continue to reach out to us, continue to send remaining questions, concerns, or issues about your application experience to the Office of Cannabis Management as well. And our email is cannabis.info@state.mn.us. So you can continue to send your questions there, and we will try our best to respond to them and ensure that we are including them in future FAQs. And with that, that concludes our program for today. If you have further questions, please reach out to the Office of Cannabis Management, and we'll do our best to answer. Thank you all.